desire to be in a relationship with a strong man who will lead, which many of us do want, you need to know how to identify with your man. This is not a bad thing. This is not an evil thing. This is not oh, you're weak bone, you're weak minded thing. This is just basic heterosexuality. A woman who wants to learn how to be in a relationship with a man, with a strong man who will lead, needs to know how to identify with him. That's what I'm saying. We throw these terms around as if they're negative, not really understanding how ridiculous we sound. And see, and here's the thing about it. A few of the thoughts in there when they were trying to break down male identified, what they said is no, being male identified is putting yourself in a place of abuse. Being male identified is meaning that you're being controlled. Being male identified, and so I did see a few comments, so we're going to get into it, but I saw a few comments that were alluding to that a male identified woman is somebody who is now under the control, is now under the the iron clutch of men, that she is just being abused. And what that language shows me is that there is this embedded assumption of really misandry, that we assume that anytime we're identifying with men, that men are naturally going to be violent, that they're naturally going to be controlling, that they're naturally going to be the ones that are, that are evil. They're naturally going to be the ones that are the aggressors. They're naturally going to be the ones that are violent. Like this different language that I saw was showing me that I think at the core, some of us come with these misandrous ideas that any interaction or any identification with manness is you now identifying with violence, as if men are just by default going to be violent, as our men are by default going to be aggressive. And listen, that there are men out there who are violent, there are men out there who are aggressive. We know this, but we cannot act like that is the dynamic 100% of the time. When we look at the interpersonal violence rate, we look at the domestic violence, we see that women are very, very aggressive. And that more often than not, we see that women are the ones who are initiating violence more. I mean, the rates have gone up, crazy. Dr. Tiazon Johnson talks about this, Tommy Curry talks about this. But this idea that just by you identifying with a man or being in a relationship with a man in a certain dynamic, you're automatically going to be controlled, you're automatically going to be victimized. That's not borne out by just statistical reality. But I think what's happening is we've bought into this idea as women, as men. The essence of who man is they're naturally violent, and they're naturally aggressive, and they're naturally controlling. And so if we come in with that idea, then men are now something to be protected from. Men are now something that you need to shield yourself from. Men are now something that you need to hide yourself from. And it's those ideologies, whether they are conscious or subconscious, those are the things that I think really, really start to undermine any relationship we would have, any healthy relationship we would have with a potential partner or potential spouse, really. Because if you have already convinced somewhere down deep inside that men, whoever they are not to be trusted, especially Black men, if you go into the Black community, Black men are never to be trusted. Well, of course you're not going to want to submit to that. Of course you're not going to want to. Honor the authority that person has in your life, because you're seeing their authority, you're seeing their maleness as a threat. You're seeing their maleness as violence. You're seeing their maleness as now you're going to be harmed. And like I said, I saw that theme over and over again in some of these different comments, and it was very interesting to me. So I want to bring that up. Let me bring this up a little bit. Again, y'all, if you're on here, get those likes up. Likes are free. So show some love on the Cash App or the Super Chats, y'all. I'm going to bring up again where did it go? Yeah, okay. So let me see if I can get these comments a little bit more so you can see it. So let's just start hop into these comments, because I thought that's where it was interesting for me to see the way, a few different people took it. We just did spend notes first. Let me see. Okay, so here's one right here. We're just going to get into it. So it says, sis, this is not what male identified means, like at all. It seems like a straw man argument when you break down points that don't accurately represent the meaning of the term. This seems like a better argument for the term pick me, which is used to dismiss women for actually caring about what men think and what men want. Male identified women are the kind of women who would accuse another woman of putting a brother in jail for rightfully calling the cops on an abuser. Male identified women are the kind of women who sweep pedophiles and child molesters under the rug because they care more about protecting their brother, uncle, boyfriend than the male identified women are the kind of women who will call a little girl fast for getting molested instead of holding them. These are women who make excuses for the bad behavior of men. These are women who think having a man defines you to a point where you should put up with a whole bunch of ghetto craziness to have somebody. Okay, so y'all, again, likes are free. So hit the like button, hit the like button. So there we have it. She has, I'm assuming this is her definition of male identified. Now here's the thing. There was never a course that I took or any of us took in school called male identified. I don't think there is a literary scholastic term that can accurately define what are the terms of male identification. So what's interesting in here is that I have all these people in those comments letting me know what it means to be male identified. Everybody and many people in the comments have telling me, no, this is the definition. This is what it is. Where we actually find the definitive denotative understanding of what male identification is, I don't know, because like I said, it's just a term that was used from popular culture. But if we literally look at the actual literal meaning, male identification, you're identifying with a male. Like, how is that negative? To me, what is described there is abuse. That's codependency. There are little terms for that, right? But again, that's being codependent. That like there are actual psychological terms to describe essentially what was addressed in that comment. But male identification, it's none of them. This is a popular term. Now, the reason I use this, the reason I wanted to focus on this term male identified, and then we can talk about mammies later, again, is because the way that it has been used for me, anybody listening right now who wanted to share your understanding of what it means to be identified, anybody who sent me a comment, anybody who sent me a long response of like, no, this is what male identification means. I need you to understand that the way that it has been used and applied in my life, it has been an insult. It has been any time I've gone and said, hey, men should have a voice, or I have shared statistical realities that cannot be argued that are not favorable for women. Now I'm male identified. That is a far cry from somebody being in an abusive relationship, from somebody being in a relationship where there's violence, from somebody being in a relationship where they are being abused or harmed, or children are being harmed. That is a far difference. So what's interesting to me again about these comments is I'm seeing women in there saying, no, being male identified is a woman who is being abused and is making excuses for being abused. Okay, fair. If that is the definition, if we can all assume that's the definition, granted, I'll take it. But now when it comes to the way it's being used, I have the male come on and share a statistical reality about, well, what's happening, I don't know, with domestic violence, what's happening with the financial profile of men and women. Just having an honest conversation, real conversation, looking at the facts, not denying it for what it is. I do that, now I'm male identified. So this is what I'm saying. It's like we cannot have it both. We can't have it both ways. And since there is not a clear, like I said, scholastic, educational, collegiate definition of the term male identified, it doesn't exist. It's up for everybody's own interpretation. It's interesting for me to see the way that it is oftentimes used to attack women who are simply trying to be balanced, who are simply not saying women don't have it right all the time, men don't have it right all the time, who are simply trying to challenge the status quo. Because again, in my life, at least what I've seen, that is a way that it's been used. It hasn't been used to talk about women who are, in abusive relationships or capping for men in abusive it hasn't been used that. It has been specifically applied to women who simply do not hate men and do not see male misandry as a level up, or do not see male misandry as a flex. That's the way it's been used in my life. So again,